This short video is going to share with you the 5 main traps. There are others, but the 5 main traps that buyers and buyers agents try to put you into and how you might be able to avoid those. Now, we all seem to experience traps in different areas of life. One of those might be, well, marriage. Now, I do have a fantastic marriage after 38 years, but I do fall into traps. One of those is when my wife says, "Did you notice?" I know that I haven't noticed. And I can't pretend to. If I haven't noticed and haven't mentioned, she's going to ask that question. Well, I thought one time that, well, I certainly am going to avoid this trap. I thought I have hit this one on the nail. I walked into the house. Our utility room has, of course, washer, dryer, cabinets, sink, refrigerator, and a pegboard where we kind of put stuff as we came into the house. So I hung my stuff up, wandered into the kitchen, and said, "Hey, those baskets that you hung around the perimeter of the utility room, those really look nice." Because while I was putting stuff up on the pegboard, I had glanced upward and seen the baskets. They were around the perimeter of the ceiling, and they really looked cute. I mean, it's hard to make a utility room look cute, but they did. So I thought, I'm going to avoid this trap. When I said that, she looked at me and said, "When did you notice those?" And I said, "Well, just now. I noticed those, and they look great." And she said, "Okay." I said, "Well, when did you do that?" She said, 3 years ago. So I didn't avoid that trap, but we are going to show you how to avoid negotiating traps. So let's take a look. The first trap is the low ball trap. Now, I think this is a bad strategy by buyers, but some still live by it. And it's not something you should take personally. As a matter of fact, when you get a low ball offer, my recommendation is that you treat it as if it were a good offer. So make a counter as if it were a good offer. Because what the buyer's trying to get you to do is come below where you normally would to try to see if you can make this work. So I'll give you an example, and this has nothing to do with your market or today's market, but at the time, I had a listing priced at $500,000. We got an offer for $400,000. The seller, of course, said, "Tell them to take a hike, we're not interested." So I explained what I recommended. So we pretended like it was a good offer, like maybe it'd come in at $485,000 or something like that. So we countered to that buyer at $495,000. The buyer responded by coming up to $425,000. We stayed at $495,000. They came up to $450,000. We stayed at $495,000. They came up to $475,000. We stayed at $495,000. They accepted the $495,000 and closed. Now, upon inquiring about this with their agent, she said they just wanted to see if they could get the seller to come down. They just wanted to see what they would do. They really liked the house and wanted it, but that's just who they are. And you see this sometimes. It's happened to me in all different price ranges. Now, most of the time, a really low offer like that isn't going to go anywhere, but once in a while it does. So don't lose the chance. And also, if your home is priced well, don't overreact and push them away or go down too far on your first counter, because that's what they want you to do. Let's look at the next trap. The next very common trap is the hurry up. Maybe they put a deadline on the contract. Sometimes they'll just say, "Hey, we really need to get a response. We have another house we're interested in, and we don't want to lose it if we can't work this out." And that puts a lot of pressure on you as the seller. You don't want to lose your buyer. But again, they're trying to get you to accept their offer as it sits or make a very strong counter toward their initial offer. If your home is priced properly, shows beautifully, and you know the value is there, then my recommendation on this is, again, to counter as you would normally, not as if you're in a big hurry and don't want to lose this buyer. Now, once in a while, you do have a buyer whose agent passes this information on, and they really are in a hurry. They just came from out of town. They only have 3 days to be here. They want to try to wrap something up with you, or else they want to make an offer on their second favorite home. But if yours is really their first favorite and you make a reasonable counter, that shouldn't stop them from responding again or accepting your counter. So don't let the hurry up put so much pressure on you that you react in a way that you wouldn't normally react and leave money on the table. Let's look at the third trap. Now call this the little things. That's where the contract offer has you paying all the little costs throughout, even the ones that are usually the buyer's costs. So don't let this throw you. Dollars are dollars. So just counter if you'd like. Keep all those things in place, but counter so that you make up the difference with your price. I hope that makes sense. Now, you might move a couple of those little costs back to the other side so the buyer pays them. But remember, dollars are dollars. You can counter partially by moving some of those small costs or leave them all there and make up for it in your price when you counter back. But again, don't take it personally. When you start to take things personally in contract negotiation, you'll lose. You either lose a deal you should have had or you make decisions that you shouldn't make. So don't take all those things personally. It's hard to tell sometimes. The buyer might be pushing the type of offer that's being made, or the agent might be pushing it. It's hard to tell. So again, don't take it personally. Just counter in the best way that you feel will get you to the closing table without leaving money on the table. And this is a common one where the buyer agent says, well, the buyers feel like they really need to make some changes and they've included that consideration into their offer. So there's a couple different kinds of changes. If you're well prepared, like we teach you, you won't be surprised if they want changes made and you know that those changes need to be made. However, there's a difference in desired changes and needed changes. Desired changes a lot do have to do with taste. And that doesn't really affect your value. And that doesn't mean they should get your house at a lower price because they have different tastes than you do. Remember, the person or family who's going to pay the most for your home are those who want what you have. If they have to adapt and change things, then you tend not to come out as well. So again, dollars are dollars. And if you know that things need to be spent to improve your home, great. But let me give you a quick story. Home goes on the market at a very aggressive price. I don't mean aggressive high, I mean aggressive low. Offer comes in verbally, and the buyer agent says, will the seller consider this? And the listing agent said, yes, I believe they will. Well, the offer then came in well below what was verbally presented. And the listing agent said, what's the problem? What happened? And the buyer agent said that the buyer had decided they needed to make some improvements. Well, the listing agent had priced the house accordingly. So don't price your house accordingly and then come down for improvements that need to be made. If you've already priced your home accordingly, there's no reason for you to negotiate twice. I hope this makes sense. Needed improvements and desired improvements are two different things. Let's look at number 5. Comps, comparable sales. This is where a buyer agent comes in and brings comps and says, we've done our research and we feel that the value is here. Well, if your listing agent has done their job, they can simply respond with comps that show that your value is appropriate. There's no doubt it's the buyer agent's job to try to get the best deal for the buyer, but not at your expense if it's unwarranted. And quite often, buyers look at comps differently than sellers and listing agents do. And I find that in specialty properties like small acreage, like golf course homes, like condos, like lakefront properties, view homes, things like that, that buyer agents quite often don't use the appropriate comparables. So if you really know an area well and the buyer agent brings in comparables that aren't appropriate, just be nice, make sure your agent is nice, and present them the comparables that you feel are appropriate. Again, sometimes this is nothing more than a ploy to try to get your price down more than you should bring it down. I hope that makes sense. Now, these are all based on the fact that your home is well priced already. If you're priced too high and you get low offers, there's a reason for it. I remember more than one occasion over the years where a lower offer than the seller wanted came in. We tried to negotiate it and couldn't. Then a second one came in about the same level. We tried to negotiate it and couldn't. Third one came in about the same level, and the seller finally realized, well, that's what people are willing to pay for my house. And we worked that situation out. But these 5 traps are pretty easy to avoid if you pay attention. Now, I did throw another video up here. This is when do you change the price? There are monitoring factors that you can use to determine when and how much to change your price. Hope that video is helpful. If you like this one, press that like button. Subscribe if you'd like to see more. And remember, it's your choice, so make it a powerful day. Bye-bye.